Hi guys, I wanted to do a quick lecture on elasticity. I see that most of you have gotten into Unit 3, which is awesome. Thank you for labeling your demand graphs with price on the vertical axis and quantity on the horizontal. Thank you also for doing your unit quizzes multiple times and hopefully reading my feedback. Don't forget that you can easily find my feedback by hovering over your name in the upper right hand corner of the screen and then clicking on the icon that has a check mark and a plus mark, and that should show you my comments. Or you can also click on the assignments themselves in the gradebook and see my comments. But please let me know if I'm not giving you helpful comments, if there's something else that you want me to answer for you or something else you want me to talk about. When you give me specific questions too in an email, if you have questions about the assignment, if you want to be real specific in your questions, that way I can be specific in my feedback to you. Also, like I said, just let me know if my feedback isn't really helping you that much. Then please let me know, because my whole goal as your teacher is to help you guys understand these concepts in economics. So, like I said, this lecture is going to briefly cover elasticity because you do have a section on that. I think elasticity of demand is a little bit easier to understand than elasticity of supply, because as a consumer, you guys participate in price elasticity all the time, and you may not know it. So elasticity essentially is measuring the responsiveness products have to changes in price or changes in your income. So if you think about cereal, and let's say you eat Cheerios, okay, and that's your favorite brand of cereal. Well, let's say that they have an issue with their manufacturing and their big plant had a fire or something like that, and so now it's costing them a ton to produce their Cheerios. So the Cheerios go from $4 a box to $14 a box. Would you still be willing to buy those Cheerios? Well, there might be a handful of diehards that will, but in general you would say, no way, I would choose something else. That means that you have elastic demand. Now that's kind of an exaggerated example, but the idea is that if you are affected by a change in price, then you have elastic demand. If you were taking an AP economics class, then you would be given a formula and you would actually be able to measure and find out how price sensitive people are. And it's actually really interesting to look at that. And it's what different companies do look at when they're determining if they're going to raise or lower their prices. So it is a relevant concept. We don't really have time to get into that, and so we just kind of look at the basic idea of elastic versus inelastic demand. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you are diabetic, you have to have insulin. The manufacturers jack the price up 10 times the normal price. Are you still going to buy insulin? Absolutely, because there aren't any substitutes. And so, yes, you will still buy it. That means that you have inelastic demand. So that means that it doesn't matter how they change the price, you're still going to buy it. So, the basic idea with elasticity is that it measures how much a variable responds to changes in another variable. So, in this concept, we're looking just at elasticity of demand. Next unit, we'll look at elasticity of supply. So here's the formula that, again, if you were in an AP class, you would look at this formula and you would actually figure out this percentage change, and then you would come up with a number and see how price sensitive products are. Again, because of the nature of our class, we're not doing this. But if this is something that interests you, you might consider taking an AP class in your high school, or they do offer them through IDLA as well. Okay, so this is getting to the questions that you guys will see on the quiz and on the test. What determines the price elasticity of demand? So you have to look at the questions that are asked in the way that they're worded, and you have to think about these different things that affect the price elasticity of demand. One of those things is the number of substitutes available. So if price changes on the cereal example, you probably have elastic demand because it's easy for you to switch to a different brand. You can go to a knockoff brand, you can try a different type of cereal, you can get, um, honey bunches of oats or something like that, okay? If it's something that doesn't have very many substitutes available, then you're going to have less elastic demand and sometimes inelastic demand. So for eggs, there are some egg substitutes, but if you are making, meringue for a lemon meringue pie, egg substitutes probably aren't going to work. And so you need eggs. There's no close substitute. You have to have that product. So you're going to go to the store, and even if the eggs are more expensive, if you are, set on making lemon meringue pie, you are still going to buy those eggs. Therefore, you have inelastic demand at that time. So substitutes available is a tricky thing. We see this in a couple of questions on your test too. So one of them talks about how cars in general have inelastic demand, automobiles in general. And that's true because especially here in rural Idaho, if you don't have a car, how are you going to get around? It's not like there's, a rocket train or there's really good public transportation. In Boise, where I live, there are some other options, but it still is inconvenient. That's how it is in a lot of more rural states. And so you have to have an automobile. And so therefore your demand is going to be more inelastic because you can't just easily substitute a car for a bike. However, if you're looking at a specific brand of car, like a Chevrolet, you might have more elastic demand because there are a ton of different other manufacturers and different types of rigs. So if your heart is set on a Chevrolet, but you're like, I just can't afford that, then you're probably still going to buy a car. So you have inelastic demand for cars, but you're going to buy a different brand of car. So therefore, when we're looking at Chevrolets, you might have elastic demand. So hopefully that kind of clears up those two questions that I've seen on the quiz and on the test. Another thing that determines price elasticity of demand is the proportion of income the good requires to purchase. So the higher the price of an item, the more elastic it is. And so if the price of the item is going to take up a large portion of your paycheck, and so you're saving up for it, and then they raise the price, you may just say, forget it, I'm not going to do it. It's taking up this huge portion of my income, so I can't do it. Vacations and that sort of thing. I can't afford to go to, New York right now with the cost of airline tickets, and so I have very elastic demand. I'll check out airline tickets, but if they're not the low price that I need, then I won't purchase them. Generally, the lower the price of an item, the more inelastic it becomes. And so that means sugar, if sugar goes up a quarter, we're probably not going to notice because a bag of sugar is like $2 anyhow, or, flour or something like that. There is a point, and this is what, measuring how price sensitive people are to different products is so interesting. There is a point in which your inelastic demand will switch to elastic demand, but that's the job of the companies to figure that out. Another thing is the amount of time a consumer has to respond to a price change. So if gas prices stay really high, which they were for a while, really, really high, people stopped buying Hummers, they stopped buying gas guzzlers, and they started buying electric cars or hybrids. And so you just adjust to price changes over time so it's more elastic. You guys may have experienced this in driving to school or to work. You're on empty and there's a Texaco around the corner and they're a quarter more than the Fred Meyer, which is a half a mile away, but you have to get to work or to school. You're going to temporarily have inelastic demand. You're going to purchase that higher gas price. Maybe you'll fill up 3 gallons, but still, you don't have the amount of time to adjust to it, so you're going to have inelastic demand. Another thing is a luxury versus necessity. This one probably makes just a lot of common sense to you. So, luxury goods have elastic demand. necessity goods have inelastic demand. If you have to have a product like insulin, you're going to have inelastic demand. If you really want that jet ski, but it's taking up a large portion of your income and you just can't think you can do it, you're probably going to have more elastic. If we look at total revenue, this is a tricky one. So, with elastic demand, if the price increases and the total revenue decreases, so think about that. The price of the cereal goes up, your total revenue goes down. That means people aren't buying your product. Therefore, they have elastic demand. If the price decreases and total revenue increases, that means people said, oh my gosh, this lower price of this cereal, now I can buy it instead of the knockoff brand. They have elastic demand for your product. Inelastic demand, if the price increases and total revenue increases, so they both move in the same direction, then it's inelastic demand. If the price decreases and the total revenue decreases, then you're going to have inelastic demand as well. So hopefully this kind of cleared up elasticity a little bit. Again, let me know if you have any questions. This is an extra credit opportunity for you. So what I'd like for you to do is to find an assignment that I've graded so far, and I want you to just cut and paste in an email to me a piece of my comment that was helpful. Or if you don't think any of my comments have been helpful so far, then please let me know, and I'm happy to adjust my comments or do something different to help you out. So again, just shoot me an email saying, I got feedback on this quiz, you told me about this question or this definition and it helped me, I got it right on the test, great. Or you can say, I've read through your comments, I don't think they're really helping me that much, I wish you would do this instead. I would love to get that feedback too. So whatever you're comfortable with, that would be great, and that's your extra credit opportunity. Don't forget I have office hours on Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. in the Social Studies Academic Help Center. Thanks for listening.